Hey nerds! It's Geeks of Cascadia. Geeks of Cascadia. Geeks of Cascadia. Exclusive tabletop game podcast for the Pacific Northwest. All levels of gamers. Analog gaming. Tabletop news. Dungeons and Dragons and magic. Stupid, mindless banter.
There will definitely be some. That's probably our best. That's our best feature.
You are listening to the Geeks of Cascadia podcast, featuring Steve Hobbs, Paul Anderson, and Joe Costa.
Hey geeks, Blue Samurai here. It's episode 36, and I am with...
I'm still Paul.
And I am the Costasaurus.
And we are your podcast to tabletop games. We talk to designers, artists, we talk to con people, we talk to everybody.
Yes.
Right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta get that intro a little better, but I'll eventually get maybe episode 50.
The 50, yeah. Well, I think it takes at least 37.
Well, I'm just so excited because I came from PAX, and I believe you did too. Did you go?
I was
Joe?
going to, but there was a wedding I forgot about
Oh,
that I was reminded
okay.
about, so I did not go. I went to that instead because apparently it's not kosher to say, I'll just go to your next wedding. So.
Yeah, apparently not. Yeah. Well, I
had people who came to both of my weddings.
Yeah, you did.
Twice?
Yeah, you did.
I did not know that.
Hopefully,
Yeah. My first wife's uncle came to my second wedding.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Cool.
That's cool.
I think I went to the failed one, right?
You were in the failed one. I had to drive to Enumclaw to pick you up to drive you back to Thanksgiving.
You were in the field one?
Wow.
Were you the cute little ring bearer?
Yeah, I was.
You had like
I
a little.
was.
You had like a little.
Am I
like,
that
I-
old?
I-
You tried to look that
I
old,
had a
Joe.
gnome hat and everything. It was really cool.
Nice.
All right.
Gnome
so
hat?
I did, yeah. Well, we had a D&D themed one, right? No?
Yeah, it was a deal.
I would
Yeah,
want to go
no,
to
we
that.
did.
I'll be honest.
Because you guys didn't invite me to play until 2 years ago.
That's true. That's true. But now you're playing now. So
Oh, yes.
Tonight is D&D night. We're at Around the Table. Thank you, Around the Table, and Tim Morgan for allowing us to podcast from your back room here.
Linwood, Washington.
That's right, Linwood, Washington. And speaking of PAX, some of our good friends that we interviewed on this podcast is putting out their Kickstarter. Is that right?
Yes, the Matlocks. They've got this great, fun-looking game called Congress. They've been working on for years.
Beautiful art.
It looks
art's
really great.
Pretty much done, is my
So
understanding.
they're really trying to dial it in for the past year and a half since we met them at ETX.
Yes.
And it looked done then to me, but they're just making sure the rules work and everything.
And we're wishing you luck, man. It's cool that we saw him from the very beginning. It's
Yes.
taken about a year and a half
Yeah.
just from just us talking to him.
But they're kickstarting tomorrow, I think, which I'm starting to jump on your news.
No. I'm
We're
saying
in your section for
that would be
Kickstarting.
September
Right.
4th.
Yes.
Listeners, September
That's
4th.
So it's going to end around October 4th?
And of course, we're going to get into the con news. We're going to get the Kickstarter news. Maybe, of course, we do our witty banter. But one thing that I want to let the listeners know and the viewers out there know that this podcast is going to have, once again, our special segment called Behind the DM Screen, where we're going to give you a review of White Plume Mountain.
Is that tonight?
Yeah, it's tonight.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah. Did you, I thought I told you that.
Oh, is that what we're talking shit? No, yeah.
Okay,
great.
well, that's what we're
That's
doing.
wonderful.
That's
I
what
enjoy
we're
playing
doing.
that.
Because that's what we have for
Oh,
content.
right. Well, we have more than that.
Well, yeah, we do have more than that. We interviewed tons of people at Dragonflight, which we were
Dragonflight.
at last week, I believe. Oh, that's right.
Ooh,
I got a
nice little
t-shirt.
shirt.
I should have got a t-shirt. My kid got a t-shirt.
Pro tip, Dragonflight buys too many shirts. Buy last year's, next year, it costs $10.
that is
Wow.
true.
I
That's
like
true,
that.
but my size is
Nice
usually
little
gone.
life hack.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
2XL.
mine's common.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2XL?
2XL.
That seems to be common too in
Yeah.
conventions.
Yeah, but it's different for Paul. He's just got so many muscles.
Mhm.
My muscles.
That's
And,
true.
plus they
That's
shrink
actually,
a
that
lot.
was a pretty nice big
You know,
muscle.
then I get the princess sleeves.
Wow, nice guns.
Like that.
Yeah, look at that. That's a good
Yes.
big bicep
Right.
there.
Well,
There's
let-
no background checks at this gun
That's
show.
right. All right.
Oh.
Well, let's just go right into the con news, shall we?
Okay.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Unless you want me to go to
I'm just
Kickstarter
doing
news.
a little bit of shopping here.
Okay,
Looking at
I
the-
see
at
you're
the
doing
Dungeons
that.
and Dragons Waterdeep Heist dice.
Don't you have dice already?
I have lots of dice.
You know,
but
you're
can never
going
have
into
too
that
many dice.
dangerous shop. In fact, we should do a podcast about
Paul's dice
collecting.
problem.
Yeah, you got a
Yeah.
dice problem. So anyway, what's going on with
Well,
cons?
one thing, the RenCon's coming up here.
Yes.
That is going to be on September 15th and 16th. They have a functioning website now,
Yay!
which is great.
Yay!
So I threw some
Functioning
shade in there
websites.
a couple episodes ago because
Yes.
they had no functioning website.
Yes.
They've got guests
Mhm.
and comics and stuff. If you click the link in their Facebook advertisement, it doesn't go anywhere, so
What
don't
is
do
this
that.
stuff?
Oh.
But I'm hopeful that it's going to be fun. Moving on, we've got VCon, Vancouver's premier Science Fiction,
okay.
Fantasy, and Games Convention, October 5th through 7th
Nice.
at the Sheraton Vancouver Airport Hotel. That looks really fun. They also have guests and stuff. Steamposium is coming up.
Ooh,
Yeah,
okay.
very cool. October 26th through 28th in Seattle. And I'd like to go to that, but that's
Bring
on
your
weekend.
cold and water.
Yes.
Huh?
And last but not least, we've got Geek Girl
Ah,
Con.
okay.
At the Convention Center in Seattle,
That is
October 27th and 28th. That's 53 days, 6 hours and 29 minutes if you're watching this live.
Mm.
Oh, wait, you're not watching this
No,
live.
they're not.
No, it'll be sometime less than that to wait,
Yes.
so I did you a favor there.
Where's it at? Is it the
It's
Washington?
Washington, there's at the Washington
Washington
Convention
State.
Center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
cool.
All right.
It's not quite as big as like PAX that we were all just at. Thank you for mentioning that.
No.
PAX.
It's about a third of the size in square
Yeah.
footage, I feel
That's
like.
totally cool. But speaking of PAX,
Yes.
I want to say hi to Anna.
Hi, Anna.
I came up to talk to the OrcaCon table in the diversity lounge that I was working, and said hi. And she's a fan of the podcast.
Oh, she actually listens to
Yes,
us.
so
That is awesome.
she's my favorite fan.
She's one
Fan
of,
number 2. All right.
all right,
One-
yes.
One of the 10s.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Anna.
Anna, if you could just give us 5 stars on whatever platform you listen through, like the
Typhoon.
iTunes
Yes.
or SoundCloud or whatever, and you can write whatever comment you want. It's just 5 stars, though. That'd be really cool.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, just went on a
you would be
tangent
the third person to do that because I'm the first and second.
there.
And so we have currently 2 reviews.
2 reviews.
Yes.
One is me reviewing my previous review where I misspelled stuff.
Ah.
So, are there any other conventions?
There are other conventions. Do you want to hear all of the conventions?
Well, that we con use, yeah.
Well, we did 5.
Okay, well, whenever you
Yes.
can get
Well,
going.
that's what we
I
got
think
going
we
on.
got through the
Well,
ones that most people
maybe-
could make it to.
Maybe the big one that sponsors us, kind of, sort of.
Dragonflight? Dragonflight was last weekend.
The
It's
other
fantastic.
one?
Oh,
Oh,
OrcaCon.
Yes.
OrcaCon is coming up in
Yes.
January. Is it the 12th, 13th, and 14th?
You're a board member.
I'm a board member. I always get the dates wrong.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's in January.
It's in January.
It is in
It's
January.
Martin Luther King weekend.
And you can go
It is
visit
not.
the
It's
website at
not.
orcon.org.
Yes, orcon.org.
Mhm.
And that's going to be right on the front page there. I believe it's 11th, 12th, and 13th. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I think the hotel rooms are all booked up, but I
No,
can't.
the hotel, there's plenty of hotel rooms.
Oh, I meant the executive suites.
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I've got one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Do you
not-
have one?
No.
Oh,
No, I
wow.
don't.
Wow. Okay.
Let me steal a joke from somebody else. We're
Yes.
going to do this behind our computer screen.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
don't have one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm just going to have to pay for my breakfast.
All right. Well,
That makes me sad.
I'll tell you what. I'll eat my breakfast and watch you from.
You know,
From
what you
a
could do is come
look up to the sixth floor.
down to my floor and bring me up to the 9th
Oh,
floor.
I could do that.
You could do that.
That's how you, okay. Get nice little bowls to put the stuff in from the 6th floor. Parachute.
Parachute it down to
Yeah,
near
that's,
the
Parachute
lobby.
down.
okay.
Go
With
to
the little,
sleep.
yeah,
Sleep
like
in
the
a
little
chair in the
chair,
lobby.
little chair,
That'll
just
work.
parachute it down, you know,
Mm.
just like the little packages they had in Hunger Games.
Exactly.
Right.
You know,
Because
he
we're
can
gonna-
open it up and be like, oh.
We
it'd
could
be
have
awesome.
a whole Hunger Games thing going on in
We
the
could.
lobby.
Yeah.
That would be great.
I
Think
could
about
crossbow you.
You could crossbow it.
That's right. Thunk.
That would be great.
Wow.
But no, there's plenty of rooms.
Yes.
Passes right now are at early bird pricing. That
Mhm.
goes up October 1st.
October 1st,
So
guys.
before October 1st would be better.
Mhm.
There is a possibility we could sell out and not have any passes available at the door. We don't know yet. We'll see how this goes.
Okay. Well, great. So, what about Kickstarter news?
Well, Kickstarter, maybe to me, is kind of quiet at the moment of this podcast, which is the 3rd of January. Did I say January?
Wait, you did
I was
say
thinking
3rd of
October.
January.
3rd of September. So, one of the big ones right now is just going to end in 3 days. I'll just say it because a lot of times you can pre-order through the site. But one of my favorite one-man shows, Ryan Lockett. Have you heard of Ryan Lockett?
Not.
No, I have not.
So Ryan Lockett is a one-man show. He is the owner, publisher, graphic designer, illustrator, and game designer of Red Raven Games. And his art is freaking gorgeous, but he has the second edition of one of his first games called The Ancient World, and that's on Kickstarter.
Sounds old.
It's
Yes.
ancient. It's coming with metal coins. It has now. It's kind of a worker placement, but you're building up what you need to do to get different parts of the missions completed. And I know our viewers can't see this, but like this is kind of like that's his art.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
It's
Cool.
like
Very
really,
nice.
really awesome.
Maybe we can put it up on the screen right here. I don't know.
That'd be really awesome. I don't know if we can do that.
Or my
But
face.
that's going really good. I love his stuff. I mean, he's the ones he's recently done. Actually, the ones that people would know the most of is probably Near and Far, and Above and Below.
Okay.
Those are the big ones that I've seen people been playing a lot. Like this last con, where Dragonfly, I saw a lot of people playing Above and Below and Near and Far.
Cool.
He also has a big sci-fi, like 3.5 kind of X game called Empires of the Void. However, he has that ancient world there. Another really cool game that will still be going when we air this is called Nanty Narking. Nanty Narking. Nanty Narking. And it's like a Victorian board game, and it kind of got like some wit. They call it pod snappery, but it is designed by Martin Wallace, who has done some really big, amazing games. He's the guy who's done A Few Acres of Snow, Age of Steam, Discworld, Brass, which just they've been starting to bring out their rewards from that Kickstarter, London, Rover Tycoon, Runebound. I mean, he's done a lot of these games. So that's Martin Wallace's game. It looks really cool. Like it has that Victorian feel. You may be playing as Edgar Poe or someone similar to that. So it has like these Victorian characters like that, and you're going around like London trying to find out what happened to Eleanor.
Okay.
Eleanor.
The car from
Like
the
the
Nicolas
Raven?
Cage movie, the Mustang.
Or Eleanor Roosevelt, the first lady.
Yeah, you go
Okay.
forward in time to look for Eleanor.
Okay.
Forward in time
Alright.
to the Nicolas Cage movie,
So
and back in
you
time
you
to the
play
40s.
a gentleman, which to me looked kind of like Edgar Allan Poe. The art is really, really gorgeous. Just everything about it looks really great. The gameplay looks really, really fun as well. Just looks like there's like a lot of variability in it, and it has like some story elements to it. The flavor text, there's minis. Those of you who like minis, there's lots of minis in it, and just a big, full.
That's beautiful.
I believe it's a map of London. So, but that's a big one. Martin Wallace is definitely a crowd pleaser, and people who tend to like one Martin Wallace game tend to like his other ones. So,
Okay.
that's kind of it for Kickstarter. I mean, there's other games out there, but there's nothing. And I'm sure there's going to be some little game companies that are like, hey, but our game's really important. That's fine. It's just not important to me. So I don't have it.
Right.
I don't have it in here.
Just to talk about it again, we talked about it earlier, but don't forget Congress is going to be coming up.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can pull up their Kickstarter real quick, but
If it's not live, I don't have a.
should be live as this.
I don't have a link
Yes.
to access
And
it.
it's all about obviously United States Congress
Oh,
and
yes.
getting bills passed, and
Right.
everyone's got objectives and secret objectives, and you can do nasty things to the people you're playing with, block their bills, stuff
Sounds-
like that.
sounds
It
fun.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who would.
I wonder
play
that'd be
something
kind of
like that.
sound
I
kind of
think
cool.
I would
to be able to do.
totally win if we
They
played.
kind of screw other people over with their bills or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that, and they're trying to screw my bills
And
over.
I'm hoping there's going to be
Wow.
an expansion called the Initiative Process,
Oh yeah,
but we'll see.
that screws everybody
Yes.
sometimes.
Yeah, it sure can.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Maybe make an album called Your Vote Doesn't Matter federally for Electoral College.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought that'd be really
That's the
cool.
expansion set, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Only federally, of course.
Well, that sounds like we got a lot of feelings about this very subject. Maybe we should make our own game.
We should.
We should.
Or we could go and talk about the game that we're
I think we should probably do it. White Plume Mountain,
White Plume
behind
Mountain.
behind the DM screen. We should probably go right into
Let's
it.
do that.
Let's do that. Right about now.
And now, Geeks of Cascadia presents Behind the DM Screen. And now we review White Plume Mountain.
Welcome to Behind the DM Screen. And this segment, we are reviewing White Plume Mountain, which is in the bigger book that came out, the Yawning
Tales.
Portal. Yeah, Tales from
Tales
the
from
Yawning
the Yawning
Portal.
Portal.
So originally, just to go back, it was a module that was created in 1979. But before we go into that, I am one of your main hosts, Blue Samurai. Of course, I'm with.
I'm still Paul.
I'm Rebecca.
I'm Steve.
And if you want to know what we kind of did, Steve here was the DM. I played a paladin in Azamar, right? Azamar, paladin. I think we're all 8th level. What about you? What did you do?
Go ahead.
I was a dragonborn sorcerer for the first time doing spells.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That was a kick-ass monk.
And we had two other
Punchy.
players. One was a thief, and I think another was a cleric. If I got that right.
Yes.
Yes,
And-
Dangerous Alfredo.
One
Who else
more.
did
What was-
Should have been
what was
60.
your-
a half
Jeremy.
orc.
Yeah.
And he
Jeremy's
was
a fighter.
he was just a straight up fighter.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty well balanced.
This is his first time playing D&D.
So just to go into it, so White Plume Mountain was created around 1979. Now actually that was when it was published, but before that, this kid by the name of Larry Schick decided, hey, I want to have a job at TSR. So he wrote this module up, threw in the best parts of stuff that he had created, and mailed it in to Gary Gygax and TSR, and they looked at it and went, hey, this is great. You want a job? So back then you could do these submissions.
Yeah.
Now it's probably impossible to do that. But they hired this kid on the spot, and they took his submission and turned it directly into a module.
Yeah.
And as he said, nothing really changed from his original. And his only regret was the fact that the Black Razor, which is one of the artifacts that you have to find in this, was something that he kind of stole from another story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Luckily, they haven't been sued for that yet.
Well,
So, if we could, Steve, could you give the kind of the premise of the story?
okay, so the premise. Wow, thanks for throwing me on the
Yeah,
spot.
no
Now,
problem.
the premise of this is essentially there's, as in the old days happened, there's a Kreptis, this evil wizard. He created this gonzo kind of dungeon under White Plume Mountain, which is a volcano. And really it blows up. It's got a lot of hot mud in there and plume of steam coming up, hence the name. And he steals these 3 artifacts from their owners. It's kind of, they don't really go into that. He's basically stolen these artifacts. He's hidden them in his dungeon, and he sent out a note here to the guys, to the owners, saying, "Hey, I got your stuff.
Oh, I thought
Come
you
get
made
it."
that up.
No.
I
I just
thought you made it up
photocopied
and
it.
wrote it and everything.
I photocopied it.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
And it gives clues to inside the dungeon where they are and whatnot. And they hire intrepid band of heroes to go get all the artifacts back.
So he's just doing this for fun.
In the old days, people just did stuff. They didn't have this huge backstory. It's like, hey,
Right.
I got your stuff. There might be, which the kind of nice thing in the old days was, here's a situation, this thing, there's not a lot of background. And so DMs all over the world, just make stuff up for them because you need a little background.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
if you want to work some context in, here's a thing, you throw it into whatever else you're doing and kind of build your own links to it. But
Right.
the module itself is pretty just kind of, it's the site, that you're going to, and you just come up with a reason, go in.
Right, and Steve and I, we actually had this module way back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Paul and Rebecca, not familiar with D&D in the 70s, they were part of the cool kids. We were the nerdy kids. We played D&D, they didn't. But now they're nerds
don't
now.
know
I'm pretty sure you didn't play D&D. I got that part. I knew that part. But you love it now.
I do.
You're a big
I do.
fan.
It's super fun.
So there's really not a lot of difference, right, Steve? I mean,
No,
pretty much
it's
everything's the same.
The Yawning Portals
Mhm.
version is just the exact same thing,
Right.
updating things to 5th edition, like monster stats and all that, and rules for different things you can do, whatnot, specifics in there, throwing them into their skill checks for things.
And the
whatnot.
and the module was designed to be a one shot. So basically, like you generate a particular character at a certain level, and you run it through, and that's pretty much it. Maybe a DM wants to put
Well, you
part
can,
of something.
yeah,
in
you
the
can
regular
throw it
series.
into other campaigns
Right.
and whatnot. But for me, I'd never run it. It was one of those things I read back when I was a kid. And I was like, I want to run this, but I never really got the chance. So here I am, 50 years old, and I'm going to run some people
Right.
through this
Yes.
thing I wanted to run when I was like 14 or whatever.
Now, and we'll go through some of the differences as we move along, but right off, one of the first differences is the level. So back then in White Plume Mountain '79, I think it was like 5th through 10th level, and the suggestion was like you can run this up to 10 players. Now I can't imagine having
Wow.
10 players. That would be insane.
Yeah. In the old days, it was a lot. I mean, I think that a lot of groups were like 8 people or so seemed to be kind of the recommended average. You didn't have, there wasn't as much miniature play, so turns went faster, whatnot. Characters a little more fragile. So we always played with, we have, generally a lot more people than we play now. Now playing like 8 or 10 people in D&D would be crazy.
It would be crazy.
But you just all sit around a table and the DM is going, this and this and this, and everybody takes their turn and goes.
And Tales of the Yawning Portal, D&D 5th edition, starts you off at 8th level. It's basically the recommended level that you should play through this. So let's start off in the very beginning. Now, Steve had mentioned that there's 3 artifacts that were stolen from people. And they don't even mention who these people are they were stolen from. They were just stolen. And there are 3 major actual artifacts. I mean, they're just below artifacts, but they're artifact level type weapons. Wave, which is a trident type weapon, and it's got various powers in it. Whelm, which is a hammer. Again, very powerful. A lot of powers.
Didn't bring a dwarf to wield.
And we did not bring him to
Because
our
he won't
building.
let himself be wielded by anybody but a dwarf.
That's right. And Black Razor. Now, what's interesting about these 3 artifacts is, and I don't know if it was specially designed for that, but each artifact was very specific, right? Like Whelm, you had to be a dwarf. Wade, you had to be a worshipper of a certain type of god. Black Razor, I think you had to be of a chaotic, neutral type character. And
I don't
so,
remember exactly.
I think in a way they did it specifically so you wouldn't use it during the adventure. But if you just run us from the first part of the walkthrough, if you could.
Black Razor, like a warlock thing?
No, Black Razor is pretty much a Stormbringer from Elric. It sucks souls and it wants more souls.
It's a nasty bit of business.
It is a nasty bit of business. It's very famous in D&D lore for being an awesomely nasty piece of business. So where do you want to start? You go from
So basically, we start the adventure I think you start off
By
with
the way,
Smart
there's
Matt
there's
here.
gonna be spoilers in this.
That's right. There'll be tons of spoilers in this one.
Yeah, so, initially we ran through kind of mostly I guess they hired you, because again, we were doing this just as a one-shot. You camped out your horses in Dead Knoll's eye socket, and wandered up to the mountain and went in and looked. And really, initially, it's just kind of explore the mountain and stuff, try and figure out a way in. You find your way in, and then you got to
really, the module starts when you kind of go down the spiral stairs.
Right. The first step is just trying to
Yeah.
find this spiral staircase.
You get into the module proper, and you get in there, and there's like a foot of water on the floor most of the places, very hot and humid and whatnot. And your first real, I guess, encounter was with the Sphinx. You get into there, and
Right.
then the Sphinx asks you a question. You have to answer the question to get through that force wall.
Yes, that was the first real encounter that we all had. That was our challenge.
That
And
was,
so-
that was a lot.
It's a-
I'm not good at that.
It was a riddle.
Yes, it was a riddle, and I felt that riddle was kind of easy.
Well, you
It
got it
was
right out of the
heavy.
chute.
Yeah, it
okay.
was. It was very easy riddle.
Right.
Which I was fine with. Some parts are going to be easy, some parts are going to be hard. You guys got it pretty quick.
Now the difference is this is where the difference is. I'd like to point this out just because of the different editions of D&D. But if we go back into the original module, you can see where the Sphinx here is 38 hit points. That's it, just 38 hit points. But in the in this one, the new one, the Sphinx is like I think over 100 hit points. So it's kind of interesting where, in fact, I'm pulling up right now,
Yeah.
136 hit points. So I know Steve and I we were talking about how different the additions were. Maybe you couldn't cause that much damage, but it's interesting how the game has evolved since then. But really, I think we realized at this particular one that this adventure is not what we're used to.
No.
It's not just hack
Yeah.
and slash.
Now
Right.
it's a fun house. It is a carnival fun house of adventure with
Mhm.
weird things happening, which was why I really wanted to run it, because it's not you're going and there's factions and
Mhm.
the dungeon and da. It's just bizarre crap.
That was,
Right.
that was
And
some
it
awesome
feels cool.
solving. The frictionless room.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Discs.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just fun.
A lot more role
Which-
play on this one. A lot more role play.
Well, and it's just a lot of there's this thing where people really want their D&D to make sense and be like realistic or whatever, and logically consistent and all this stuff, and there's some place for that, but there's also a place for just going and having fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Looking into the twisting circle that's spinning around and going, what do we do here now? Let's run through. Oh shit, it caught fire.
Right.
And this is that. This is that kind
Right.
of just
So
weird, gonzo, fun stuff.
So at this point, we solve the riddle. We move on. What did we go to next?
I think we took the middle route. There's really three. The dungeon breaks into three pieces, essentially, one for each of the artifacts.
Right.
The straight ahead route was the route you took first, which was towards Wave. And you go up, and that was the Kelpie room.
Right.
Oh yeah, where I
It's
saved
the-
you, I think.
Yeah, I think
Right?
you did.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had to save you.
might have
We all
saved
got
Yeah.
that picture in saving, Steve.
Yes.
I
did my saving in the other room with the
Yeah.
platforms. But anyway, go ahead. Yes.
You also got saved there.
Yes, that's true.
But the Kelpies were, for a couple things. The Kelpie room, they were in a foot of water, and in this room, most of it's deep water, so it's easy to fall in. And they have to try and route their way around. And there's these Kelpies which try to charm people into leaping into the water.
Yeah, I'd go too.
Yeah, them. Yeah. And that went okay. I probably could have played it a little harsher if I would have played up the whole charming thing a bit more. But you guys kind of figured out what's going on. Mostly I was like excited for that because I found some Kelpie figures you can get at Reaper, and I painted
Nice.
them. So I was able to
Mhm.
look at these guys.
And just so I just want to take a pause right here because it's very interesting how D&D has evolved. Basically, a lot more inclusive. Back in the day, the Kelpies were just females. And I'm just reading exactly from here. For some reason, I'm reading from the original. For some reason, females are immune to the spell of the Kelpie. Legend has it that this is so because the Kelpies were created by the sea god as punishment for those men rash enough to sail the oceans and paying their lord the proper respect. Women were not involved in these transgressions, and thus did not incur the sea lord's ill will.
Boy, we should have gone by the original.
Yeah.
I could have slid on
Yeah.
by.
You could have. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Jeez.
But anyway, that just there's many examples in D&D. If you
Yeah.
take the old Player's Handbook and all
was
that.
originally from the 70s,
That's right,
which
that's
were
right.
less enlightened than
But-
today.
But this time you could have been charmed
I
there,
could've-
Rebecca.
I could have been.
That's
I was
right.
thinking about saving you. Though.
Well, thank
Can we
you.
see the
Yeah.
picture again?
Yeah, we can. We can. Maybe we'll have. Hopefully not.
We won't be putting that one.
No, we won't put that one up. Anyway, so
It's
we.
worse than Star
So
Wars.
what's interesting, Steve, is that I think Larry did a really good job because at the very beginning he put water everywhere, right? So you didn't know
Note to spellcasters.
if you were going to go into a pit or not. It's kind of
As it
ingenious
turns
on
out,
his part,
yeah.
which we fell into some pits.
Some of us found a pit.
It's good to have,
Yeah.
it's good to have a bag of animals for these instances.
But yeah, so past I guess the Kelpie pit, or the Kelpie room. There's I think next you guys actually skipped the spinning thing of doom and went up against the giant crab.
We did. That's right. Yeah.
In the bubble.
Yes.
Which one of the things I really liked, I didn't expect it, but in his big note here, you guys actually kept this. I made copies of
did.
this, and you were going, "Oh, we got to this thing because we saw this," which
We
was kind of neat.
That's
I
right.
didn't.
We referred the note many times.
Yes,
Yeah.
you did,
Mhm.
and I wasn't expecting it to be as significant or whatever, but it was kind of a neat thing. I might have to do
freaking
that.
Zyra is.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Yes.
Right there.
Yeah. But you fought the. It's a giant crab. You guys fought a giant lobster because Archie McPhee sells nice large plastic
Right.
lobsters for like a couple bucks. So that's what you got. Same thing though.
Right.
And that's where you recovered
Didn't we
weight.
keep trying to cook it with some flame?
Oh,
Because we're all hungry.
what is it? Nick, Dangerous Alfredo snuck back around the back of it and got Wave out of the
Right.
out of the chest while you guys were fighting the giant
So
lobster, and then the bubble popped because you were blowing
That's
things
right.
up and stuff.
So this is the I think it's the second most dangerous part of the dungeon. I guess it would be. No, it'd be number one because
It's
you have a situation where there's this thin membrane. You're fighting a crab, right? And everyone's got they got swords and stabby things, and you got spells.
It's a
It's
membrane.
like
It's a
having
dome membrane.
Right.
Yes.
Fighting area.
And if
and
there's
on the other side of the membrane is hot
Right.
boiling water
Right.
and mud.
and I believe according to the rules, like you're dead. There's really
Yeah,
no
there
way
would
to
have.
survive.
I didn't just. It's if one of you would have like thrown a fireball and like boom, okay, that would have been it. But you were just like shooting things and you're poking holes in it with your misses, and so I let you have a little warning that hey, this thing's starting to
Mhm.
Thank
Yeah.
you for not killing us.
going around, and you ran into the other room, closed the
Just
blast
in time.
doors just in time.
Right.
No seafood for dinner.
Who was it? Somebody actually ran up to the chest to try to get more treasure.
That's
out of
right.
it.
Who was that?
I don't
I
know.
don't-
But then they got back just barely.
I just want to make sure that I had enough to tie it to my church. That's all.
Okay. It was
Okay.
good then.
All right. So we got out of that, and then what happened next?
Then next you took the little side excursion.
Mhm.
There was the whirling corridor of basically the corridor went forward and it was the walls were turning or the whole it was a circle that was
Yeah.
all turning
Right,
like a
so-
tube
Spinning dude.
with a spinning with the kind of spirally lines on it covered in oil.
Yeah.
And what's the worst that could happen when you run through it? Well, somebody can set it on fire.
Right.
And that happened.
I recall just
And then-
dimension dooring right through that.
I recall running through it.
Yeah.
So just for the listeners and the viewers out there, and so basically you're going down the hallway, and all of a sudden you see the hallway turn into a tube, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's spinning, and it's covered in oil. And how do you get through it? Was was what we had to face
Yeah.
in this thing. And at first went, oh, no big deal.
We'll just run.
We'll just run through
as
it,
hard as we can.
not thinking about the oil.
And then you slide in the oil, and it's slipping, and then somebody
Mhm.
shoots a flaming arrow into it and sets the oil on fire. And then
And like murder hobos, we unfortunately
you went
kill
and
the evil
murdered
people. That's right.
this innocent guy with his werewolf girlfriend
Yes.
on the other side.
Now I
said there was
now that I have the module, I can read that they are lawful evil.
well,
So we
yeah,
kill
that's
evil people.
We didn't know that. We just thought they had treasure.
So anyway, so far at this point it's more of a hack and slashy type thing, but after this is when it starts really getting interesting.
Well, yeah, you take then you came back. You took the
Mhm.
next passage. You took the eastern passage, which heads up towards Whelm. Encountered some green slime
Mm.
in the water.
So let's talk about that. So
Oh, yes.
green slime is a low-level threat.
Yeah.
However,
assuming you can see the green slime and avoid it.
the
Yes.
only way to if you look in the monsters manual, I think the only way you can kill green slime is with flame. That's
Fire.
it, with fire.
Burn
And
it
unfortunately,
in
for
yourself.
whatever reason, I totally forgot how to do it.
Yeah.
But I guess,
I know.
I mean, in a real, if we're actual characters in the Forgotten Realms adventures, we probably wouldn't have known that anyway, right? And
Well,
so
at
that's
some point you probably run into green slime and you learn. And,
Right.
And people tell you, hey, by the way, if this slime gets out and starts eating you,
That's
gotta
right.
burn it.
and this is where you as the DM went, oh my gosh.
These
I
guys are
thought
gonna
I
for
die.
gotta
sure
save these
somebody
guys.
would know how
These
how
guys
to
are
deal with green
idiots.
slime. And you're just like, oh, I don't know. I'm just
I
yeah,
don't
I'm
remember.
gonna run around like this, or this slime is eating me.
I was picturing my tombstone saying "killed by green slime,"
Because he didn't know.
That's
no
right.
better.
and I think, and this is something for DMs out there. So when your players are in trouble, or they're acting dumb, sometimes you gotta give them something. I
You
think
gotta
the
just
way
say,
you did it was roll. I think you said you had us roll. What
Like
was roll?
something like a history or insert,
Yeah.
something. Just give me a roll so I can tell you this.
That's right.
Is what it came down to. You gotta burn it. Just burn the slime off. Stop dying. Yeah.
I always wondered what would have happened if we all rolled like
Yeah.
really
I
low.
rolled a3. Okay,
Die.
fine, die. See if I dare.
That's right. So
Die just to spite me.
running into the next one, if you.
So there was so you had the other kind of riddle thing, the golem room,
Oh,
where he came
that's
in
right.
and there's 5 flesh golems.
Oh, yes.
Right.
I know, it's like one of those things. When I was 12, it was like, oh, one of these, you have to guess which golem is the odd golem out.
Would
You have
kill
like
us
60
if we
seconds.
didn't guess
No,
that?
they just attack you if you don't
So-
answer within 60 seconds or answer wrong.
Right. So let's let the viewers kind of picture this. So the players walk into a room, and there's lined up against the wall are flesh golems.
5.
5 of them. And they have numbers on them. Like they got jerseys or
Yeah,
something.
I know, it's like,
Right? There's a 5, a 7, a 9, 11, and a 13. And number 5 says, one of us does not belong with the others. If you can pick it out, it will serve you, and the others will allow you passage. If you pick the wrong one, we will kill you. You have 60 seconds. So that's what the flesh golem said.
so like, to a 13-year-old in 1981 or whatever, this was a hard puzzle.
Yeah.
Oh wow, one of these is prime. That's
Right.
but now in 2018, it's like I put down the list of the numbers and they're all like 9. I mean everybody just 9. That's a prime number. Really?
Embarrassing. None of us had come up with that.
I didn't.
I recall you shouted out 5.
No, I didn't say anything, actually.
I don't know how many
remained
of you
quiet.
pointed and said 9
I
I think we all had
instantly.
that.
I got
said
moved.
9.
I got
Yeah,
moved.
there were at least half of you.
Yeah.
9. That's like
Right.
really.
And
And
we.
then 9 became our friend.
That's right. We
Sort of.
immediately named him, gave him a name and everything. It was pretty
Number
cool.
9. Oh, what did we name him?
Then we named him Homie 2 or something like that.
Oh,
Only
like that.
2.
All right,
Should be a
so-
homie.
So anyway, so
Homie.
yeah, so now you have a goblin,
Right.
golem friend. And that heads out, and that goes to
That's what I thought.
when I, imagined how this module was run. Not the room I thought would cause the most trouble.
Oh,
And It
really?
seemed to be the room that caused the most trouble.
Oh.
The room where you go across all the discs and chains.
Oh, yes, yes. So if we could let the viewers know. So you're walking into basically a cavern, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looking down below is hot, scalding mud. Like if you fall in, you got a few seconds and you're dead. And hanging down from the ceiling are these wooden platforms, circle discs,
Big
held
discs.
up in the center of each disc is this chain that goes all the way to the top. And how many are there? There's a
It
couple.
looks like a dozen or so.
And we'll have a picture of it right here. There's a picture of it right here. And
Right over your face.
right over my
We'll do
face.
that.
And it goes all the way to the other end.
Self do that later.
That's right.
Paul will take care of that. There's a picture right now. I know.
Right, I see his face.
So,
An Air Lotus picture, which makes it even cooler.
so if you could, Steve, what do you think happened there?
Well,
I
so
thought I
there's.
transported very well.
Mm.
Past those.
You did. You
I
dimension
did
door.
Dimension door. Or
That's
whatever
right.
the
Dimension
other
door
one
across
was.
the other side. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, so there's all these discs and you have to jump across, and there's two, I guess, old faithful type of geysers down in the mud that shoot occasionally mud up into the air, and it burns everybody who's on the discs and whatnot. And you guys got across okay the first time.
Mhm.
Someone
You-
fell
somebody-
in.
No.
Fall in.
Did you go in?
I-
You went in.
I have a monk of a +8 acrobatics, and I still couldn't roll,
No.
so I fell in.
Jeremy saved you. Troll.
No.
No, it was a blue samurai.
I
who
did.
saved
Samurai
him
saved me.
with
I
his-
did.
With his flight ability once a day.
That's right. So before we go on, so obviously you were met with this challenge. How do you get across to the other side on these discs? Very, very flimsy discs, by the way, held up with just a chain. So when you jump to it, you gotta have great acrobatics or athletics. Now, going back to the original AD&D, I'd say probably it was 79 was probably second edition.
First edition.
It was the first edition.
Oh yeah.
So here's the deal back then. I'll just read to you. Characters with an 18 strength or better have a 65% chance of holding on the disc that is adjacent to the erupting geyser. For each strength point less than 18, there's a 10% chance of hanging onto the discs. So, for
kinda
example, 16 strength equals 45% chance. So, and that was it. If you didn't make it, you fell in, and you would immediately get, almost like 50 points of damage. Now, let me read to you the new requirement in 5th edition. The 5th edition one is all you have to do is to get from one disc to the other disc is roll a DC 15 strength. Now, that check is pretty good, actually. I mean, it's
Yeah, you
it's
got like a
moderately
dozen
different.
of them though to make.
But here's the thing, though, is if you miss, there's a second roll that you have to do, and that's the check on dexterity, I believe,
Okay.
right, for 15.
Yeah.
So there's 2 checks. Now, back in the old day, I don't... Steve, I mean, you're familiar with D&D, and I'm familiar
Well,
with D&D.
back
I mean,
in the old days.
That's it. You're dead, I think. I think a lot
Yeah,
of
you
people didn't cut
probably
past this.
would have maybe been a little more, organized about how they do things. You're so used to used to be a lot easier to die. So I could see like, well, tie a rope around you and then you can jump across, and then tie the rope off and then jump across, and something like that. To where if you fall, it's not such a big deal because you hang down and
Right.
pull you back up. You guys didn't do anything like that.
Right.
You just went for it.
Right.
You're just like jumping. Boop,
That's
boop,
right.
boop, boop.
Right.
Ah!
That's how we used to vote to come back. Did we not?
Yes.
Coming back.
Coming back, we're smarter.
And the,
Yeah,
and the
you learned
difference,
something.
and the difference between D&D back then and D&D back and now is the fact that now you can increase your ability scores. Back then, you're pretty much stuck
Yeah, you're
unless you get something like a tome that increases.
Yeah, and
your
there
thing,
used to be no real skills and whatnot. So
Right.
it was,
and so
a lot
it's
more
not
open-ended.
unusual now. I think some of your characters have 20 in certain abilities.
Yeah,
in this
I
game.
had 20 decks. Yeah.
So, and back then you couldn't do it, and to think that 65% chance and that's it. Eventually, with so many discs, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 9 discs. There's no way you're gonna miss a disc.
oh yeah.
Um,
But again, back in the old days, it was just run differently. You didn't have things like, you didn't really do a lot of like dexterity checks and things like that, or skill checks and all this.
right.
So I think it was a lot more about kind of coming up with ideas on things to do, and then the DM would just kind of go, sure, you can do this, or sometimes just make them,
The good thing is we were able to get across.
You did.
And what's I thought was great about this challenge is we all had to work together.
Yeah.
To figure this out. Well, Rebecca, you had to use a spell dimension door.
I did. It's 4 it's the only one I had.
You ferried people across.
I ferried people across, and you, with your great dexterity and being a monk, you were able to, except you
Get
missed
partway
one.
across and then
yes, that
drop
was
it into the
fall in the mud.
What was very frustrating though is, as an ASMR, I had this great ability where I could sprout wings, but also I had a +8 damage extra, and I was so angry because
You had to use it to fly.
I had to use it to fly, and I wanted to use it to attack people. So unfortunately, but it came in handy because obviously
dying.
it does beat dying.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, it's like if I didn't do that, I think you
I
would have
was
been done,
I was
right?
done, yeah.
Yeah. You would have been like, roll up a new character or something. So
We'll
anyway,
find you in the dungeon, or what's this guy doing here?
Right.
Yeah.
so it's something that if you're going through this, if you're a DM, you're going to run your characters through this. Something to think about, like this room itself could end the entire adventure right there.
If your players do not think carefully about what they're doing, this room can end the entire adventure.
Right.
Yes.
Did you have any thought as a DM? Was like, what were you going to do if?
I was like, they may end the adventure for you here if we
Right.
don't figure something out. You didn't, so it was fine.
That's good. I think it's something like this. Luckily, we all know each other, and I think we work well. But I think if you have a team that doesn't, I think you're screwed. And if you don't have a team that's balanced,
as long as somebody comes up with a plan of
Yeah.
attack,
So-
it's something you can do. You should be okay.
so we.
But yeah, there's not a lot of this. The thing on this particular area, there's not a lot of wiggle room. If you go into the mud, you're probably
Right.
not coming back out.
So we get through it, and we get to.
The vampire room.
Yes.
What was his name? He has a name.
His name is Clenmere.
Okay.
Clenmere.
That's
Yeah, it
intimidating.
is.
Under the old system, he only had 40 hit points. Under the new system, he had over 100. Yeah.
And he can summon rat swarms and stuff.
Right.
So it's with the magically dark room. That was the magically dark room. He's in there. He's got Whelm, one of the
Mhm.
artifacts, and you have to suss him out, fight him, kill him.
Right. So let's talk about that now. We find Whelm. Now, this is something if you're going to DM this adventure, you actually have to think about how you're going to play the weapons.
Yeah.
Because these weapons are sentient. They can think. They can interact with the character.
They can insult you.
They can insult you, and I think I think he did a good
You
job.
did a great job. Yeah.
He actually had a different voice and a different persona for each weapon. And so, as a DM, what do you suggest
one of them
these?
was Scottish.
Yeah,
Oh
one
yeah,
was
well,
Scottish.
of course the Whelm, because that's a dwarven weapon.
Right.
And
So-
somehow dwarves became Scottish, no matter what
Sorry,
you really
Scottish
think.
people.
Right. So did you approach this as a DM's like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it beforehand, or was it just kind of spur of the moment? Oh my goodness, I got to interact with the players with this.
You know, a little bit of each. You kind of go, oh, okay, well, I guess he's dwarf, so I'll play him Scottish. And you didn't have dwarf in the party, so that was going to kind of limit your interactions.
Though I tried to negotiate with Whelm, it didn't work.
No, it didn't work.
No, it didn't work.
No, he doesn't have anything. But yeah, I mean, kind of get some basic ideas. Here's how I think I'll handle it, and then just let it happen and try and play it as it goes. It's about all you can really do. I mean, theoretically, you can do a lot more planning than I do, and maybe some people do. But
Do you think the weapons themselves, if you are actually able to use them, do they break the game? Do they cause?
they're
cause
really
all
powerful. I don't know that I'd say it breaks the game, especially in a one shot. I mean, I was hoping Jeremy'd like whip Black Razor out and see what it does. He never did though. In a full campaign, yeah, they're pretty powerful, but you know, you're getting into 8th level, 9th level by the time you're done with this. Although you're supposed to give them back, so I think that's part of the big thing is
Right. Do you feel like that?
using them would be fun for the rest of the adventure.
Do you feel like that the puzzles enough will kind of offset that maybe because there's so many puzzles that it didn't matter if you had these.
Yeah,
powerful
you don't
weapons.
really do too much in the way of just lots of combat. I mean, you fight some stuff, but compared to, you know, most of it really is puzzly type of stuff you're facing.
So we grabbed the weapon. Yay us.
Yep.
So we had
Yes.
2 weapons. Next thing we do, I think we all decided, hey, we didn't check out this one hallway, which was, I think, led
That's
us to a
the
room,
globe room. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah, that's where we
Just
stood
the
outside.
glass globes,
Mhm.
and really it's a weird type of room. There's these 9 glass globes hanging off of chains, and you break each one open, and there's something different in it. The real big thing is you get to this ring that is just this amazing ring by its own
Right. So just let
by
the
its own account.
before you go into it. So I want you to picture. So you enter the room, and hanging down from the room are these globes, right? They were kind of opaque. You can't quite tell what's in there. And as Steve said, you know, there were things in them, right?
Yep.
We're still standing in water.
We're
You're
still standing
in
around.
water. The
Yes.
fun thing is, you guys, once you start breaking them open and seeing there's things in them, trying your hardest to figure out, is this one good to break open or bad to break
Right,
open? And
right.
that was kind of fun watching you guys.
And the door is locked behind
And
us.
of course, like all
Oh, that's right,
adventurers, we break them
That
all
was-
because
Oh,
we're
of
getting
course.
stuff.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
We stayed on the other side of the
Right,
store.
right.
Didn't we find what we needed to find, and you still broke the others open just to break
So
them?
I didn't decide to break it. I believe it was Bill that decided to break the last one.
'Cause
And
why
Bill's not here to defend himself, so it's great. So I'm blaming it on him.
But yeah, so the fun thing in this room is there's this magical ring that
Yes.
does just tons of amazing stuff and talks to the party telepathically.
Yes.
Says all these things that I do, which is like super super powerful, but you have to choose who gets it before you leave the room, and they have to put
Right.
it on before you leave the room. Otherwise, it
Right.
loses its magic. Or
So
something.
and just so the ring will actually speak to everybody in the
Yeah.
room. So it'll tell them that they have invisibility. The ring has invisibility, haste, immune to charms, fly once per day, detect magic, and 1 wish.
Yeah.
And but there was one drawback, I think they said, which was they once a year you
Oh,
earn 1
yeah.
hit point.
Something like that. But it's basically a loyalty test, which in the 70s probably wiped out a lot of parties.
Right, 'cause-
People killing each other to see who gets this amazing ring. And in our group, it
Jeez.
was just like, who
No,
wants
you
it?
take it.
You take it. And like, okay,
You're right.
fine.
So back
Times have changed.
you're right. Back in the 70s, everyone would be killing each other for this ring.
Yes.
And so what do you say, or what do you think, or what would you say the DMs that play this? What would you
Well,
expect
we
from today's
were,
adventures?
yeah, but, we're a group that everybody knows each other, and everybody's cool, and everybody's nice to each other, and everybody likes each other, and so it's not going to be a big deal.
Right.
If you put it like a bunch of people who this is their first time playing together, they don't know each other, whatever, I could see it causing problems. But nobody's going to we're not the type of people that we're friends.
And the great thing about the ring,
Nice
ring.
party.
the great thing about the
I know,
ring,
you guys suck.
great thing about the ring. Well, one part of the ring is once you take out of the room, all the power's
Yeah, it
lost.
doesn't do it.
And what I liked is I because we all got along, we pretty much said, oh, I don't like. We all kind of role played, like we kind of knew each other, and there wasn't an issue.
And
Yeah, I
actually,
got the ring, and it's like, oh great, I got a ring that looks nice.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it was lame.
Yeah.
So what? Now after that, what did we do? I think we went straight, tried to go
so-
for the Black Razor. Right?
Yeah, next was going to Black Razor. So we had the pit underwater, which is, it's an underwater.
Sure. There's a bit.
You really need to buy some 10-foot poles or something. Then there was the corridor with that heated metal.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Was that the frictionless?
No,
No.
that came after. First was the metal heating corridor, where all the metal you were carrying.
I must have transported it.
You
So-
actually did.
Right. So picture, if you will, you're come across this hallway. On each side of the walls are these copper panels, and there's no way to remove them.
Nope.
And if you move across, all the metal that you have heats up like red hot, to the point where you're starting to damage is happening to you.
Yes.
If you're wearing armor, you're gonna die.
I didn't
Yeah,
see
you
it. I
just-
didn't see it as a problem. Not really much of a problem.
Your monk didn't see it as much.
It's
as
Right.
a problem.
I could catch people on.
Now, as a DM, how did you feel about this particular challenge, bro?
It was fun. Well, because Punchy got a. Were you the one that triggered all the ghouls to come rushing out?
Yes, and that. But my
Yes.
my prize for running across bravely was ghouls.
You were all like, it doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
And all these ghouls came
Yes.
out of the secret door and dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we came up with a clever plan, which is basically I think we put stuff in a bag and then dragged it across, and because it was in
Well,
water.
there was a
kick
multitude
the
of
ball.
things because when Punchy
Can I
went
take
all the way through, the ghouls attacked him
Okay.
and dropped
Did I
him.
take
So
the bag?
I don't remember if
you had to get across quickly. That's when Rebecca dimension doored across, and you took somebody with you.
Trollum.
You took Trollum with you, and then you fireballed ghouls and Trollum
Right.
saved Punchy.
So that's right. We
And
got.
then the naked paladin. Whatever.
That's right.
Took all his armor
That's right.
off.
So I had to take all my armor off, and then I had to fight people naked.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we got through that. But I thought was very interesting is the next challenge, which was the frictionless room.
Yes.
That's right.
Talk to us about that, Steve.
Big long room. It's totally frictionless. You can't stand up on it. Things slide. There's no friction in the room. You can't fly through the
Right.
room.
So imagine
no
if
magical flight.
and just to have the listeners kind of view this, air hockey, right? You put 25 cents in. Air hockey starts off. You put the puck in there. It's gonna move,
Yeah.
right? So essentially, that's what.
Essentially, it's that you can't even stand up because you can't keep yourself balanced enough to not slide and drop over. And there's it's a big long room, and there's two kind of ditches across the room filled with horrible rusty razor blades at the bottom of it.
Right.
So you have to somehow get across the room without going into the
transported
rusty
across
razor blades
that room,
with
too.
super tetanus.
Right, and so you would receive damage the minute you go in there, and then you would have to roll each time,
Yeah. it
as I
was
say,
horrible.
from the super tetanus is what they
Yeah.
called it.
Yeah.
So in this one, talk to us how we solved this problem. Because we tried
you
to
guys
fly,
did all sorts of
flying didn't work,
Flappy.
Well,
That
yeah,
Flappy
you
in the
took
hall.
Flappy the Bat went and kind of
which was a
able to-
familiar
yeah.
for a wizard.
I think you started it off by hauling all the dead ghouls up and sliding them into the pit
Yes.
to
That's right.
fill up one half of the first pit with dead ghouls.
That's gross.
Therefore, avoiding the razor blades.
Right. So, if you will, this you have a long room, and about maybe a quarter away, there's a pit, razor blades.
You can't just
you
step
can't
over
avoid it. You can't just step over it. And then I think there's another pit, right?
It was
Is
another pit. Yeah.
There's another pit. So we pushed because we fought the ghouls. We brought the ghouls in, and we filled. Wow, that's pretty macabre. We filled the pit up with dead ghouls,
You gotta use what's
so we could
Yes, you
get
do.
over it. But what was the cool thing that we did to actually maneuver in this room?
I'm trying to remember.
Did we
It
pull
was
each
a
other
mage
like
hand.
a rope?
Oh, it was Mage Hand.
Oh.
Yes, you would sit in the room,
Mm-hmm.
and then who was mate? Was it Bill Mage Handing
Mhm.
people? And he would like pull your. It was like
Right.
troll physics of like I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna have a Mage Hand pull myself across the room,
So in a
and that actually worked.
right in a frictionless room, just imagine. So the rule is in D&D 5th edition, cantrip does 10 pounds of force, I believe.
Yeah.
So if you create this mage hand, and basically what Bill did was you're holding onto the hand, like you're shaking hands
Yeah.
with it, and it's pulling you. Now it's only 10 pounds, but
Yeah,
if it's
no
a
friction,
frictionless
so-
room, you're
so as long as
moving.
you don't build
Right.
up too much momentum, you
Right.
just kind of slowly and let
Right.
it mostly hold you in place, and then
Mhm.
then it can stop you. Yeah. Yeah,
And
sure.
he had
No,
a,
that was good.
and I believe he had a rope, and that's how we did it.
I
And
think
the
so.
other pit we used, I think it was your spell, where we used mold earth or something, and we
yeah,
filled up
something
the
like
pit.
that.
So anyway, we got through that. So we got through that, and moving on, what happened next?
Then it was inverted ziggurat, which
Was the final
the
final
final-
artifact.
yeah, to go black razors
Mhm.
underneath and behind it. So basically an inverted pyramid, and it's a menagerie. Some of the 2 levels were
Mhm.
filled with water, with giant crayfish or crabs because Archie McPhee's had them really cheap, and then sea lions.
Oh, your
Yeah, you
description
should-
was great because
you
that is
should-
exactly what I thought. It looked
Okay.
like just from what you said.
You
Right.
should show that on the screen for the
We should.
listeners later.
Oh, we will. In
Right
fact,
here.
it's right here.
It's right there. And then there's like some manticores down there, and giant
Nice.
scorpions.
Mhm.
Lots of seafood.
That was
Just
a big,
everywhere.
that was a big fight.
Yeah.
Oh, and the sea lions. The sea
And you ended up filling
lions.
up the bottom of it with water because
Right.
was it fireball or something blew out one of the water level partitions.
Yes.
But that was a big fight.
I think if you're a DM, I expect. I think the walls of force to be, or I think it was walls of force.
They were just glass.
to be shattered or glass
Yeah.
to be shattered. Just expect that to happen. But luckily, in the module, it has the water drain.
Yeah, the water drain.
But
you guys got to show
it is a challenge for the players. I would say it's more of a hack and slash type puzzle. In a
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
You know,
it
I had
is.
to
I had to
call my, I had to
qualify
call
it.
my hound, as I recall, and he died pretty quickly.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
I think I may have used a badger.
You used a lot of badgers. You went through a lot of badgers in this game.
That's right.
So underneath, then they went to the halfling under there.
Right. So at the bottom of this inverted ziggurat, and was a secret passage to another room
With a stoned halfling.
with a stoned halfling. That's right. You go in the room. There's tons of pillows in there, and there was a halfling who said, "I've been imprisoned by Kryptus,"
Wasn't there a big hookah in the corner?
and there was a
Yeah,
big
there was
hookah
a
in the
big
corner.
hookah in the corner.
I'm glad you focused on the
Just
hookah.
wanted to make sure that
That is
details
nice.
were
Very- Very important. Steve, if you can walk us through that.
Okay. So yeah, he's actually a ogre mage, whatever
Yes.
they're called now. And Oni, I think. is
Here's
what
the
they call
picture
them.
right here.
And yeah, he was like lying to you guys, going, "Hey, I'm a prisoner and all this stuff." And I knew you weren't going to believe it, but still, it's the thing is like, as long as he keeps his end up of the ruse up, it's not like you guys are just going to jump him.
I really just wanted to walk up and hit it.
I know.
I was-
But I find it's like this guy in this dungeon underground, and you're like, "Hey, I'm not really a monster or anything. I'm an okay guy.
Right.
You know, I'm not evil."
Do you
And-
remember
and you
what I
guys are like,
asked?
none
Because
of
I
you
was
are-
immediately suspicious.
Oh yeah, of course.
Where
But
do you
none of you were actually going to attack him until he did something to
Right.
unmask himself.
Right.
I thought it was kind of hilarious. Like, of course he's a monster. Duh, who
Right.
else is going to be down here? But you're all still like, let me ask more questions and see if I can get him, trap him in some.
It's because we're nice.
If
I wasn't lawful good,
Mm-hmm.
it was holding me back.
That had to be hard for
It
you.
was very hard.
I think what immediately made him switch was the fact that I did locate object.
Yes,
Oh, you did.
That's right.
And then he went
Didn't like
crazy.
that.
Yeah, he did not like that. And he immediately turned into.
He knew the gig was up.
Right. Now, in the original White Plume Mountain, it's described as an ogre magi.
Yes.
In the newer D&D, in 5th edition, it's described as an Oni.
Which is
So,
the old.
basically
Magic.
the same.
Same thing. Yeah.
Right. So, we killed the ogre magi, or Oni, depending on what edition you're doing. We got the Black Razor. We're all high-fiving one another. And we head back. Now, we did miss something.
Yep.
And as I went through, now that I read it, I totally forgot about it. But there was another room that we could have went to, and we could have gotten cool stuff.
Yeah.
If you could quickly just describe the last thing that we missed.
So yeah,
It's
it was
very odd too. A very odd thing to
Well, the
have in
whole
the
thing's
module.
odd.
Well, all things odd, but yeah.
But yeah, it's this room you go into. It's got some kayaks. It's got this stream of water floating in midair that you can get into in the kayak,
Yeah.
and then goes into these little tight tunnels in the wall, and you go through there. You all get into kayaks and go through, assuming you want to do such
It's
a
like
thing.
Small World.
Yes.
And then
Yeah. Let me show you.
this what's the guy's name? This guy with like 8, I think. Who's he? Oh,
Sir Bluto.
Sir Bluto. Yes.
Nice.
It's as if Larry just went, God, I gotta think of a name, and he just came up with Sir Bluto.
Yeah. So when you're getting into the water, that disturbs the water, and so they notice you're coming downstream, and you go downstream, and they ambush you.
Oh,
Him
sorry
and
we
like
missed that.
8 knights. And it's actually a pretty nasty looking fight. Especially
Right.
since you're all coming down one by one in kayaks. They have nets to pull you out, and then 8 guys in heavy armor you just pound the hell out of you.
Nice.
But
You guys missed it.
we did. We would have had some cool magic items. Oh well. Oh well. So
Instead, you decided to leave.
we decided to leave because we had enough. We were beaten up. So what happens at the end?
Well, at the end, you get back out to the first crossroads, and Corruptus kind of congratulates you on,
You have to
this.
fight two big.
Yeah,
creatures
as far
right.
as he goes,
Right.
and then says, by the way, I'm going to give you a choice. You can go to my indoctrination center and replace the Guardians and become, one of me,
Right.
or I can send my 2 free to kill
Right.
you.
So, and I have the
Knox,
message
was
right
it
here. It
Knox and
says,
Cox?
Knox and Cox. This is
Yeah.
not thinking of leaving, are you? You've been so entertaining. I couldn't think of letting you go, especially when those little items of mine, especially when you have those little items of mine. And since you've eliminated all their guardians, well, you'll simply have to stay. And in here, as the DM, or as the players, you have the option of going, yeah, I'll be a part
I
of
was
it.
really just sitting there hoping somehow you guys would all just go, okay, we go. Thought it would have been hilarious.
And what would you have done, by the way?
You would have gotten indoctrinated.
Oh, we could have been somebody.
You could have
could've.
been somebody.
Yeah.
Now you're just nobody.
Good healthcare plan.
No, but
I
I
got
mean, it
paid.
really comes down to, you fight these 2
Right.
free to get out. And the freed are pretty tough.
And according to both the original and this one, really, it's up to the DM whether or not you can do these if free or not. It's really
Yeah.
based upon, are the characters, was it easy for them?
Do you
Are
need
they
to
beat
punch
up?
the hell out of them one
That's
more
right,
time
you put-
before
you
they
punch
leave,
them.
or have they had enough? That's
Right.
kind of what it comes down
And
to.
even in the, both of them say, like, if you defeat those 2 Freeds, and you're still alive, or you're healthy, it's like, throw in another 2 more. Why not? So overall, what did you guys think? Rebecca, what did you think of the
I thought
Does it
it was
still
great.
hold up?
It was my first, character that used spells, and I picked really inappropriate spells.
You
Because
did fine.
Who'd have thought there'd be all that water? Yeah, some of them came in handy. I liked it. It was really fun. It was like you said, it was better more than just slashing and stuff. You actually had to put a little thought into it.
Yeah.
And that was fun.
And what'd you think about the puzzles? Did you feel like the puzzles were challenging? Did you like the puzzles more than the hack and slash, the fighting?
I like a little both, man.
Okay.
You know, who doesn't like to?
So there's a lot of getting from here to there and trying to figure out how to do that.
Yes.
And so that was really challenging and really frustrating, but really fun at the same time.
Nothing comes easy.
That's generally when hilarity is.
Yeah.
Did you feel it held up? Would you do this again? Would you recommend it to?
I would recommend it, yes. I wouldn't recommend playing a monk on this adventure because that kind of makes sure you can't do many of the things you need to do to solve anything.
I don't know. You got through the metal heating core.
Well, I did that one thing.
Right. It does take a lot of thought. I think that if you're running if you're a DM, make sure that the group that you're putting through there
Aren't stupid.
that's right, are not stupid and work well together. I think that's really key. DM,
Yeah.
what would you think about the whole thing?
I enjoyed it. Like I said, it was one of those things I really wanted to do for kind of a long time. It was always on my back burner. I should run this someday. So I finally got to check that off. I always like when it presents out things to do and whatnot, and you kind of, as a DM, go, maybe they could do this, maybe they could do this, maybe they could do this. And I give it to you guys. You guys like go out in left field somewhere and do something totally different. I enjoy that, and there's a lot of opportunity for that in here because there's a lot of very kind of abstract, like the frictionless room. It's just here it is.
Right.
Figure out how you're going to do it. Bill's thing with the mage hand was hilarious to me. I loved it. So I really liked it.
So it's held up to the test of time.
I think so.
Probably.
Yeah.
And compared to the old one, do you have a preference between 5th edition?
They're pretty much the same thing. I mean, you know, especially in a module like this, it's all about the kind of weird situations you get into and problem solving. And the problem solving is essentially the same in either edition.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I had a great time, and Steve, I think you were great as DM.
Yeah.
We can all
Don't
agree to
forget
that.
to take the kayak ride at the end, folks.
Yes, you gotta do the kayak ride. We missed out. We should, and we could have gotten a picture, just like Disneyland.
Yes.
We didn't
And
do
we
that.
Yeah,
we didn't go to the gift shop.
Go to the gift shop, see the
Right.
picture you in the kayak going, oh,
It's-
you guys
it's
are
only-
clubs, like,
That's
beating
right.
the hell out of you.
It's only 5 gold pieces, but it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
Totally worth it. Well, I think. Do you guys have anything else?
I don't think so.
All right. Well,
Good.
I think that's all we have. So with that, thank you for tuning in, and I think that's it for this segment.
Yeah.
So catch you later.
That was a great. I just love playing White Plume Mountain, and I love that Steve ran us through that.
That
So
was
much
amazing.
fun.
That was really
Classic role-playing game. That was like it started out as just D&D 1, right?
Right. It came out in 1979, and well, you already heard it all, but it's amazing. Some guy just actually at the time he was a kid submitted his module so he could get a job at TSR, and they went, hey, this is great.
Come
You're
work
hired.
for us.
Yeah, that won't ever happen now. But that's just amazing how he was able to do that.
Back in the day, huh?
Yeah, back in the day.
And you remember when I ran in and I was like, Leroy Jenkins! And I came in and I chopped you guys
Yes.
off.
Oh yeah, I
Great.
remember that.
I ran in and I was just like, pow! Pacha!
Right.
Bam.
Well, I want to thank Steve Morau for being on the podcast, for being able to do that. And Rebecca, Rebecca, she's been on our podcast a few
Rebecca.
times. And what's really great is we're going to start another adventure here in a few more weeks called Waterdeep Dragon Heist, I
Yes.
believe. That is coming out. In fact, by the time this airs, it'll be out at your game store, so be sure to pick that up. And then in November, there'll be, I think, Undermountain will be the next one, which takes you from 6th level to 20th level. Waterdeep Dragon Heist goes from 1st level to 5th level. I'm really excited about that. I got Divine Soul Sorcerer that I'm playing. Paul, I think, what are you playing?
I'm playing a bard.
That's right, you are playing a bard.
Sexy bard.
And Joe does not like that type of role play. But
Shaboom! Bam! 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 I'm just not a big fantasy person.
Yeah.
that's good. I keep talking about, but we gotta do that Starfinders thing. We
I
gotta try it
would
one
be
time.
down with that. That does sound cool.
Well, what else we
One
got?
thing I
Yeah,
really want to talk
sure.
about is there is first you listen to our podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's another podcast you need to maybe listen to. It's called Wheel or Woe. They're playing a Pathfinder test game
Right.
for second edition.
So Paizo is putting out their newest edition at Pathfinder, which is 2.0, and they're playtesting it.
Yes, and they're
So,
local
yeah.
people in the Cascadia area, and it's called Wheel or Woe. That's WEAL or WOE.
Just check out the.
There might be something right down
here,
here, maybe.
Right here.
Maybe something in the doobly doo
Mhm.
as well. Like more, that might be over here.
That's
I'm
a
never
cool
sure.
Right
what
over
it
my
is.
face.
No,
Yes.
the doobly doo is going to be on the side.
Oh,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
what I was. That's what
Yeah.
I was looking
Uh,
at. That
But
dude.
anyway, Wheel or Woe, Pathfinder, great new podcast. They're just starting out and they're pretty fun.
All right, guys. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Well, I think this is going to be actually a kind of a longer podcast because that White Plume Mountain went
Yeah.
on a little
Yeah.
extra long, but we got a lot of details in it. Again, thanks for listening. Stay tuned. Check us out, and don't forget you can email us at geeksofcascadia@gmail.com.
Give us thumbs up on YouTube. Please
Please
review
do
us
that.
on iTunes, or
Please
that's
do
actually
that.
Apple Podcasts now.
Yes.
And if there's anything you want us to add to the show, even if like a new segment, anything doesn't just have to be game reviews, let us know. Just be like, hey, it'd be cool if you did a segment on fill in the blank. And let us know.
and you can also check us out on the Facebook page, which is Geeks of Cascadia, or Twitter. I think we have an Instagram.
We have an Instagram.
I always keep on forgetting about
I don't use it as much as I should, but there was no internet at PAX very
Oh, that was really hard.
Yeah.
It's oversaturation, dude.
Yeah.
With the towers get way oversaturated at cons over there.
Well, with that, I think that's it.
I
So,
think you're right.
all right. So embrace the nerd, and I hope you make that saving throw. Okay, get ready. All right, you ready to bring us? Are you done?